This drive-in theater is radioactive. Now you can hear tonight's show on your AM car radio. Turn your ignition key to the accessory position. This will not drain your car battery. Now turn on your radio and zero in on the following AM station.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
All right. So let's get into this.
Let's get into it.
It's another show.
Welcome. I feel like I'm in an echo chamber here. Do I sound all right?
You sound fine. There's only two of us again, so best wishes to our co-host, Christina. So hopefully she's feeling better.
I hope
she
so.
will return next week. Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Well,
Very contentious episode next week. You'll have to stick around to find out what we're covering.
so what do we talk about this week, Jim?
This week, we are talking about the acclaimed new Netflix animated film, Mitchells versus the Machines.
Interesting. The Mitchells versus the Machines. It's not a very catchy title.
Well, it's a lot better than the title that they had
I
originally.
did read this, which was even lamer. What was it? Connected?
Connected. And this is a perfect example of one of those titles that not even give any indication of what the plot of the movie is about.
No. I mean, after you watch the movie, you could be
Yeah,
like,
they're
oh,
connected.
I get it.
Yeah.
There's connections between the parent and the daughter and the robot with the inputs and the outputs and the connections.
But it definitely wouldn't want to make me watch the movie just based on that title.
No. If anything, I would have thought it was one of those Lego movie Connectics.
You know, comparatively, the Mitchells versus the Machines.
It does explain. It
It's
does
a great
lay it
title,
out for you,
right?
Right. Suddenly, it's not looking so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wonder which other ones left on the cutting room floor there.
Who knows?
But the Mitchells versus the Machines, and then we are also going to pair this up with 2004, and I'm very excited for this. Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
Yeah, it must have been lost on me because even though I've seen this before, this viewing was like a brand new experience. So I'm very much looking forward to talking about this.
This
today.
was definitely something that I was highly looking forward to. Saw it in the theater. The minute it came out on disc, it was in constant rotation in my family's house. And yet, when I picked up my son from college yesterday and we're in the car and he asked what we were doing and I mentioned Sky Captain, he's like, what's that? And I'm trying the giant robot, Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow. Nope, no recollection of it.
Yeah. It kind of came out in a space and time that a few years before Marvel really geared up.
Which is an interesting point that we'll get into.
So it's kind of like it came out in that limbo period. And a lot of people forget about stuff that came out during the early aughts, if that's what you want to call them. And I think Sky Captain, and it didn't do well at the box office either. So
which
that
is
didn't
way
help.
too bad. Which is too bad. So.
But we'll get into it.
We will get into it. All right, so that's what we got to look forward to. Do a little bit of news.
Sure.
Not much, but we got a little bit of news.
What do you got?
Well, last week we talked about Secret Invasion casting with Emilia Clarke, or maybe it was the week before. This is the Marvel Skrull Invasion TV show.
Yes. And I was unsure if this was animated or live action, but it's live action.
Yeah. It is live action. Sam Jackson is set to play his Nick Fury role. Ben Mendelsohn will be Talos. So there is that Skrull connection from Captain Marvel. We don't have directors attached. Thomas Bezucha and Ali Salim.
When are they looking for a start date on this?
I don't really know. I know that the Kyle Bradstreet, who is connected with the Mr. Robot, is writing this.
Oh,
So I like the fact that Marvel is taking a one writer, one creative voice on these series, and not just, like we see it with The Mandalorian, which was each episode was a different writer, a different director, and it had its own little standalone story, where these Marvels, the 6, 7, 9 episodes or whatever, it just one overriding story arc.
okay.
So, and obviously, if you're familiar with Secret Invasion, it is the fact that it's revealed in the comic books that some of our superheroes have secretly been replaced with Skrulls, sometimes years ago.
Oh, so in other words, it's like a replay of the Hydra Shield.
Kind of, but it could kind of turn some of this older stuff on its head when you find out that maybe Tony Stark was a Skrull all along, and that the real Tony Stark is hidden away somewhere, and now you can bring back Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, that's one smart Skrull, if that's the case.
He sacrificed himself. I don't know. The only reason I really wanted to bring this up is because in the cast is Olivia Coleman, who is in our first feature film,
in Mitchell's versus the Machines.
Mitchell's versus the Machines. And now I thought that she was Emma Thompson. She is the voice of the little. What's
funny
pal.
is that's where my brain went to as well. I'm like, is that Emma Thompson?
I know, right? Anytime you hear like a British accented woman, you're like, oh, it's Emma Thompson. Oh no, it's not her. So we got that looking forward to. Speaking of Emma Thompson, we haven't really talked about this, but next week, or is it 2 weeks from now, Memorial Day weekend, Disney Plus is dropping a live action Cruella. It is getting rave reviews. People are just going nuts for this. Here you go. You want, if Devil Wears Prada meets The Witches meets Death Becomes Her, sounds like your jam, see it. And apparently Emma Stone and Emma Thompson just dig their heels in with this. I didn't realize that was going to be premium access. I was kind of excited for it after reading all this buzz. I'm like, all right, this was not even on my radar. Now I'm like, well, I'd sit down and watch this, but I'm not paying $30 unless the show dictates it. We do have a map for the next 4 weeks. So,
well, it'll be there for us if we run into trouble.
That is true.
Right?
That is true. Yeah. Once it's out.
And, as Christina always points out, $30 for a whole family to watch a movie at home is a lot less than bringing your whole family to a movie theater. So.
Yes. Damn you and your logic. Yes. So speaking of trailers, the only other news item I have, which is today is Sunday, May 16th. We're recording this. Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe origin movie trailer drops today. If anybody.
Oh, so it's like a Wolverine Origins kind of a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they learned their lesson after that second G.I. Joe movie where they killed off 3/4 of the characters. Did you watch the last two G.I. Joes?
I did, but I have zero memory of them.
Exactly.
It's kind of like watching Transformers. Yes, I've seen them, but I have no recollection of what happened.
Giant robots. Apparently they transform.
Snake Eyes. Is there anyone of note playing Snake Eyes?
Henry Golding, who I do not know who that is. But they're at least not hiding his face. Even on the teaser poster that came out. He's full uniform, but he's got the helmet on, he's holding the helmet and you see his face.
So does like a Darth Vader kind of a disfiguration happen to him at some point? And
I don't remember in the comics. I remember that he couldn't talk or he didn't talk. And I do know in the original G.I. Joe movie, Ray Parks played him.
He's actually Darth Maul under the helmet.
That's right. That'd be badass. And I'm assuming that they're going to play up Storm Shadow as his nemesis.
Yeah, because you got to have Storm Shadow.
You got to go full on spy versus spy.
Those were the two, I have to say, because I was of age. That wave of G.I. Joe toys and figures really were popular in the early 80s. And those were the two most coveted figures.
I was going to say that you would never find them on the pack.
No.
Yeah, he is. Snake Eyes is probably the most iconic character, except for Refrigerator Perry. Do you remember he had his own action figure?
Yes. But no, you know what one I remember is Zartan. He was the swamp guy and his skin changed like a chameleon. If you put him in cold or something, his skin changed color.
I just don't.
But I can tell you this, the G.I. Joe figures from that era did not survive time very well. like the Star Wars figures did, because those G.I. Joe figures had a lot of articulation, which was a selling point back then.
Hell yeah.
Because their hips could move because they had an elastic inside them. If you ever, if you were a kid, and I'm sure everybody out there that had them
slingshot them.
If you pulled the torso from the legs,
right.
you would see this thick rubber band that was holding them together. But as years go on, that rubber band deteriorates, snaps, and they all come apart. So
then he really could have been Darth Maul. Upper half of him crawling around in the desert.
Because I had a box full of G.I. Joe action figures in the attic. Years and years and years pass. I go up and find them. And I open the box. They're all broken because the rubber bands have snapped.
That's a horror story. There's somebody crying right now. Listen to this.
Yeah. I don't know how you can stop that from happening. I don't think you can.
No, I don't know either. Yeah, because the rubber bands over time just dry out.
Yeah.
But you're right. They had even their wrists, because they were like, I think Micronauts were like the prototype to that. They had the little pivot wrists and the knees, and they bent it.
Yeah.
That full on articulation, which we never got with Star Wars figures.
No, and that's what makes me so mad about the main Marvel figures from the movies, which are the Titan series. There's zero articulation. I don't know if you've seen these, Jeff, but they're about the same size as the larger Star Wars figures that we had as kids.
12 inch.
They're 12 inches. They're called the Titan series, and their arms just move up and down. Their legs move up and down. There's no articulation in the elbows.
So they look like Kong 76 when he breaks out of the cage.
Exactly, and you can't move.
Just a stiff arm. So they're in-action figures. Yeah. Avengers, disassemble.
I think when the Avengers came out, that's the first time I remember seeing them, and they still make them, the Titan series.
Okay.
Kids don't know what they're missing. They just don't know what they're missing.
Kids are out playing with toys. Yeah. They're not. That's not a toy. That's all the news I have. Anyways, right. Let's go. Let's get into this. The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Now, Jeff, as an animation buff, this must have been right up your alley.
This is brought to us by those Lego movie overlords, Chris Miller and Phil Lord. And you see the DNA if you've seen obviously Into the Spider-Verse. And the groundbreaking animation they did on that series. That was just, blew my mind.
Now, this is very much in that vein.
It is. It's almost like they're taking, I want to compare it to the Peanuts movie that came out a couple years ago, which is the fact that they took that look and feel of Charles Schultz's, the hand-drawn squiggles, but wrapped it in a 3D model figure, because you see it with the dads, the almost like painted on beard. It's really nice to look at.
It was hyper realistic.
It is,
but yet two-dimensional somehow at the same time, because you saw those pencil lines, especially around the face of each of the characters.
Yeah, I will. You bring that back, which is it is hyper. This movie is hyperkinetic, and if you are not in on the first 5 minutes, go away. Because it is in your face. It looks like it was made by a 16-year-old precocious little girl, which is what it's supposed to look like. It's all centers around this character, Katie, and it's her last day before she goes off to film college. This is the world of Snapchat and filters and Vine videos, and it's very rat-a-tat, cut quick stuff going on, and you could very well end up with an epileptic seizure,
right? Because the whole movie is presented in such a way that it looks like Katie might have animated it herself.
Yes, and there's all these, again, if you're familiar with like Family Guy, where they do the cutaways, it's like that, but just the like ratcheted up 10 notches, where 1 minute you're dealing with the family at the table, and then it just cuts to like one of her movies of this, what is it, cop dog cop. Her
pug is the star.
The edges of reality kind of blur together here, and I will tell you, this movie gave me something that I did not expect in any way, shape, or form. Because 10 minutes in, you see the dynamic of Katie. She's talking to camera, so she's talking to the audience. She's almost breaking the fourth wall, but she's doing it in a way because she's making these videos. She talks about the fact that, her family doesn't get her. She doesn't even get her. And I'm like, this is my child. This is autobiographical right here, because this is my family. Ratched up a notch, but like 10 minutes in, my wife starts sobbing. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she just looks at me and she goes, is that what she thinks of me? because of the dynamic between the dad just doesn't know what to do with this kid, doesn't understand in any way, shape, or form. And they're constantly butting heads, but it's just done because neither one of them are willing to accept the other for who and what they are. And this is what I deal with every day. Just replace that dad with my wife and that girl with my daughter. And this is my world. And I'm just like, I had to pause it and like talk her off the ledge.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, no, that, you're seeing the inside of this kid that you just never understood.
We have to vet these movies a little bit better, next time.
This was straight up TMI. This was like, we're all in therapy now for watching this movie. And I will say that Aaron, the little brother, just replaced his obsession with dinosaurs with football. And that is my son. That early on when you first meet him and he's going through the phone book. Hi, would you like to talk to me about dinosaurs? Yeah, the opening montage is brilliant. And like I said, if you're not sold in the first 5 minutes, then get out.
My story queuing this movie up is not as personal as yours. I hesitate to follow your story with mine. But but I always love to watch movies and get my son involved. When we see something like Harry and the Hendersons, I'm like, perfect. We can all watch this. Put this on yesterday morning when everybody was in the living room. And I always don't tell him what I'm about to put on.
Spring on him.
Just start it. Like, it doesn't matter. You're going to watch it. Does not matter what it is. You are going to watch it right now. So he tells me as I'm queuing up Netflix, before I even start the movie, he says, I only want to watch one movie, and it's called Mitchell's versus the Machines. Because,
is that what you want to watch?
Because all of his friends are talking about it.
There you go.
And I'm like, what's funny? That's what we're talking about on the podcast. Boom. And I press play. He absolutely loved it.
Yeah, this I think this speaks directly to his generation.
It absolutely does. Yes.
The 2-second attention span.
But you know what he said to me as it was playing? He's like, they're really talking about YouTube. It's not like some cheap ripoff called MeTube because they don't have the rights to use the words YouTube.
Oh, he'll be on the show in no time. He'll be running this thing. I mean, obviously, Apple, they replaced with the PAL Labs or whatever, but which I thought was funny because the building does look a lot like a PlayStation.
Yes, it does, doesn't
it? We'll get there because we're jumping ahead. But
the story itself is actually really straightforward. There's not a lot going on here.
No, it's the family dynamic of here's this daughter that can't wait to go to school. They're supposed to take her to the airport. She's flushed, can't wait to leave her family. And I understand that all too well as a kid back in the 80s. And the dad is just heartbroken because he doesn't know. And the mom, who's played by Maya Rudolph, the dad is actually played by Danny McBride. And he does it. He's fairly subdued compared to some of the McBride stuff he's done in the past. And I like both these characters. The mom is always the one who's trying to smooth things over and to try and get each one of them to kind of understand the other. But then the dad comes up with this brilliant idea that he cancels their airline flights and they are going to take a family road trip out to California. Now, I don't remember where they were going from, where they were leaving, but they were heading to California. That was the
Well, didn't they say it was cross country? So I would assume it was from the East Coast somewhere.
I didn't get the exact
location, I didn't either.
But they were only a couple days into their trip and they were already out in the Midwest dinosaur museum. But and of course Katie's immediately horror struck that she's now stuck with her family, and all of her friends are Snapchatting and sending her videos of college and they're water sliding down the hallway. She's like, I'm missing out on everything
because she's missing out on orientation. He's like, don't worry about orientation, there's nothing there that you need. And it's like and she's looking at all the videos of all these kids.
Well, I mean, as a kid, we never flew anywhere. Road trips were a road trip. We only went to Ohio for my aunt and uncles for Easter, which was still an 8-hour drive. But I can imagine kids nowadays, a road trip's got to be a death sentence. You're plugged in. It's plugged different in now.
Yeah. But you were back then too. You had your Sony Walkman, right?
Yeah, unless the batteries died on you.
No, I remember a few road trips with my younger siblings, and I was tethered to that Sony Walkman. But yeah, you're right. If the batteries die, then you're stuck.
Then you're screwed. Yeah. And I did take a fair amount of comic books with me wherever I went, and I would just reread them over and over again. And I also had a little handheld Space Invaders video game.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
See, I did not have that. That was a luxury that I did not.
Yeah.
But we didn't really say that the apocalypse angle of the story is brought to you as soon as the movie opens. and there's a pullback on it immediately.
Yeah, the trailer
before.
basically is the opening montage. You know right away. I mean, you see the name of the movie, so you know what you're getting into. But you're right. As soon as it opens, here's Katie telling you, my family's dysfunctional, and unfortunately, we were the only ones that could save humanity from the robot apocalypse.
And yet, so in this introductory scene, you see the family dominating the robots, right? So they've become some kind of, the road warriors of the apocalypse.
Right? Yeah. Or at least they're perceived like that.
Right, by the robot. The robots are terrified of them. The robots are terrified.
Yeah. It was I don't remember the character's name, the guy who runs the Apple-like.
Well, this is interesting because, as we said, the Apple-like company is called PAL.
Yep.
The guy's name is Mark Bowman. Now, take a look at that and compare it to 2001 Hal and David Bowman.
Oh, see, that was a reference even lost on me.
Yeah. As soon as I heard that guy's name Bowman, I was like, that is on purpose, and that is a reference to 2001.
Did they do another like Red Eye? I'm sorry, Dave.
No, I don't think that Pal had a red eye. But as we said, Olivia Coleman is involved in this film, and she voices Pal, and Pal is like a friend to Mark Bowman. That's his invention, and it's like the iPhone.
Yeah, it's like Alexa.
Steve Jobs kind of a character. Yeah.
In his $1,000 hoodie. Yeah.
So we see him, and he's unveiling his latest tech, which is like a robotic humanoid version of the PAL phone.
This is a hell of a jump in technology. Throw away your phones, and now you got a friend robot.
And right on stage at the unveiling, he literally throws Pal, the phone, voiced by Olivia Coleman, into the garbage. The robots come out, but unsurprisingly, she doesn't take very kindly to this treatment, and she takes over the robots, and there is a rebellion right at the unveiling. And the apocalypse starts, boom, now. And of course, our family is in the middle of their cross-country road trip as this is happening.
Yeah, this is where they're at the dinosaur museum,
which is great. This is a place that I would completely.
Oh, absolutely! That would be just as disheartened as that kid when he got out and saw the displays.
This is like a south of the border type place, right? Yeah. Between North Carolina and South Carolina, if you're going down south.
So yeah, the PAL Max is what the upgrade was. And it doesn't go well.
It's almost like a Planet of the Apes situation where these robots are going to be slaves to their human families. And like every household was going to have a robot in it. And that was the big upgrade. Hey, and it's a great idea. I'd love a robot to do my bidding.
You can throw away my phone, and it's one thing when you lay your phone down. You're like, where's my phone? Now you're like, where's my robot? Can't fit in your back pocket, that thing.
No, you can't. He'd have to, come to work with you the whole
Well, then
yards.
You could go into HOV lane.
Yeah, the robot could actually drive you to work. You'd be in the passenger seat.
That is true. I want a Rosie the robot.
But they could fly too, so you could just
they did have all kinds of features that didn't really seem to be conducive to like everyday living.
During the apocalypse, they all take off en masse, right? So they're all in the sky. So it was very similar visual to what we saw. Yeah. In our second feature, Sky Captain.
Yeah. And the family's fighting at this point, and they're oblivious to the fact that these things are raining down around them. But we're also introduced to their neighbors. It was John Legend and Chrissy Teigen voiced the two characters, and they are
I didn't write down the names of the family.
I can't remember now the neighborhood family.
It's the family that lives next door, and the wife, Linda Mitchell, is always trying to catch up with them. They're the perfect family, and that's the ideal for them, for the Mitchells to emulate.
And you see them immediately launch into butterfly mode. As soon as there's danger amok, they go into like battle mode. They're like the Incredibles, right? And then the dad's like, let's just do that. It didn't go so well.
Because the great thing is that once the Mitchells realize that the robot apocalypse is upon them, they're still at the roadside dinosaur museum gift shop, right?
And was this before or after he broke their phones? Because I think that actually helped them.
It was around this scene where the dad grabs their phones and smashes them because he realizes that that's how they can be tracked, is through their phones.
Oh, okay. I just thought it was in the heat of their argument when they were fighting, because he did break her laptop as well, Butterfingers, but
he wasn't that malicious. It wasn't.
No, he was not malicious, but sometimes in the heat of the moment when you're a dad, you do and say, listen, I yelled at my son like there was no tomorrow yesterday he was driving home from Syracuse. And he's just like, Dad, I got this. I said, will you just get in the right lane? just listen to me for 5 minutes. I'm trying to save your life.
And, you know, it should be pointed out, you know, at the end of the movie, of course, the mom points out that Katie and the dad, Rick, do have a lot in common, because while Rick isn't creative in the way that Katie is, he's, you know, good with his hands. He's a woodworker.
He's handy, right?
So there's a little moose, a carved wooden moose that
this is a nice little throughway throughout the whole thing
that he carries around as like as a good luck, as a
I think he carved it, right?
He had carved it, right? It was part. We later learn it was part of a log cabin that he had built with his bare hands, and it was on one of the stairway on the handrail of the stairway, and he took it as a memento of that log cabin. But it occurred to me, he's got it sitting on his dashboard. I'm like, as soon as you take a right turn, that thing is out the window. Yeah. You got to moor that thing down. Yeah.
Maybe it was just heavy wood. This is where, you know, now the family has to kind of work together to figure this out. And there's a great scene in the mall, which I thought was really fun and probably a little bit of a homage to, what was it, Dawn of the Dead, where they're in the mall?
Yes. Well, they actually mention Dawn of the Dead in the movie when Katie is like, this is just like Dawn of the Dead. And I thought to myself, I sincerely hope she's talking about the 1978 version and not the Zack Snyder version. She did not specify. Unfortunately, she did not specify. That's all right.
So you leave it to your own imagination.
Yes, you do. But before we get to the mall, though, we didn't talk about the two robots
that become good. The two dumb robots, that get knocked around and become...
The giant dinosaur that's in front of the museum falls over on top of them when just a blow to the head can wake them up out of their... What movie was that we were talking about last week? The Avengers. When Hawkeye gets a blow to the head.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And that wakes him out of Loki's, the Mind Stone's
That's all it took.
That's all it took. And that's all it takes with these robots. The dinosaur falls over on them, and suddenly their programming becomes all scrambled, and the Mitchells can control them, they discover. So they have two of these apocalyptic robots on their side for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, they did have names, I think, but I didn't write them down.
Deborah-Bot 5000.
Was that Conan O'Brien, or was
that was Fred Armisen.
Oh, Armisen.
And Eric, played by Beck Bennett from Saturday Night Live.
And they were fun comic relief at this point.
Yes, they were. Yeah. Was it the robots that inadvertently gave them this information that there's a kill code? That can be programmed.
Yeah.
And that's why they go to this mall. So because there's a PAL store in the Mall of the Globe, they call it. And that's where they can upload this kill code and end the robot apocalypse.
Yeah, unfortunately, every appliance and mechanical device in there had a PAL chip in it that was in destruct mode.
So I got a Maximum Overdrive vibe.
Oh yes, right? Very much so. Yeah, and I got even like Tron vibes with the with the giant CPU and all this stuff.
Yes.
But this is around a point where I'm like, there's 40 minutes left in this movie because it is much.
As soon as the movie started, it tells you how long you're in for. Like once your little timeline shows when you begin a movie on Netflix. And we've talked about this, even though we love movies like WALL-E and all the Pixar stuff, they're a bit self-important in their length. I think a lot of animated movies could stand an edit of maybe 15 minutes, and I think this is no exception. So that was my only caveat with this, is that...
And then just give me a director's cut on the back end.
Yeah, it could have used maybe 10, 15 minutes cut out of it. So we get through the scene. They can't upload the kill code. The USB is destroyed in the process. And in the meantime, PAL is upgrading her killer robots into these like super bots. That are the next step up. Was there a name for them? The super killer robots that
I didn't write anything down, so
I don't think there was a name for them. And in the meantime, you also find out what's happening to the humans. It was almost like Save Yourselves, that situation, where they're putting the humans into these cubes and shooting them.
But where did these cubes come from? Do we just have them on the sideline in case? Like, what else would they have been used for?
Yeah, I know. Pal's been hoarding them because she knew this was
funny
coming,
because it is very much like Sky Captain with the animals in the little pods.
Yes,
spaceship.
Did you know going into this what you were doing, Jeff? But pairing these two together?
It's obvious by now. I have no clue what I'm doing on a weekly basis here.
So yeah, fast forward a little bit. The Mitchells are getting apt at destroying these robots. So they actually make it to the headquarters of PAL, which PAL calls the rhombus of infinite subjugation, which is in Silicon Valley. So they make it to Silicon Valley. The plan is to dress as robots and to sneak on the top of this big human pyramid that's being built by all these cubes. The Mitchells are captured at one point. Their friend robots turn evil again. The pug dog, who was the main character in Katie's movies, who was Dog Cop or Cop Dog or whoever.
Monchi was his name? Monchi.
Yes. Now, this is based on the director's own dog, and his name was Monchi-Chi, but apparently maybe they didn't have the rights to use the actual word Monchi-Chi.
Does anyone even know what a Monchi-Chi is?
I don't know.
You know the song, though. You know the song.
Talk about kids not knowing what they're missing. Monchi-Chi. I don't actually remember the song.
Monchi-Chi, so soft and cuddly.
Oh, yes,
Monchi-Chi.
yes.
Now it's in your head.
Now, Monchi-Chi was similar to a troll doll,
They
like
were
a little
monkeys.
plastic thing, but they were monkeys with like big
heads,
curly
yeah.
hair,
And
big curly hair.
I think they had tails too. Yeah, I think.
And they could suck their thumbs because there was an opening.
Oh, that's right. Yes, it would pop into their mouth.
Yeah, I always thought that Mickey Dolenz, after he grew out his curly hair, looked like a Monchi-Chi.
He was a Monchi-Chi.
Yeah, but yeah. So
We digress.
We digress. The dog's name is Monchi, and because it's a pug, it looks like a dog, but it looks like a pig as well. This is what they use to confuse all the robots because it destroys their programming because they can't figure out if this dog is a dog or a pig.
Or a pig. Now, you said that the Monchi's based on whose dog?
Mike Rianda. Now,
Rianda, who's the director. And he also voiced Aaron, by the way.
He also voiced Aaron, who does sound like, an adult. He doesn't
Right.
sound like a kid.
Yeah, no.
We're talking about Mike Rianda. He co-directed with Jeff Rowe. They are also the writers of Gravity Falls.
There you go, which is, a show that my kids absolutely gravitated towards.
Oh.
Loved it, and it holds up. It is an X-Files for the.
We were just talking about how less is sometimes more. Gravity Falls, 2 seasons out. We told the story.
Which amazes me that it was only 2 seasons, because it really seemed like there was a lot going on.
I think there were a lot of episodes per season, to be fair. But yeah, I love that show.
Yeah, no, it is. Is it on Disney Plus?
It is. It is on Disney Plus. Of course, it's also on Disney XD. You can see it in a number of places.
But if I wanted to stop and watch both seasons from beginning to end.
Yes, you could.
I think was there a movie that wrapped it up? Or am I making that up?
It was a multi-episode arc that wrapped it up. Yeah.
Okay. No, but back to Monchi. He was actually voiced by a real pug called Doug the Pug, who is some internet celebrity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how do you get dialogue out of a dog, but so yeah, that was pretty funny. They couldn't tell if he was a pig or a dog.
And then Mom at one point goes berserker Wolverine.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, mother of two, look upon me in fear.
Because Aaron is threatened by the super kill robots, and she just goes nuts and dismantles
Terminator
all of them.
mode.
Yeah. So Monchi manages to blow up all the bad robots just by his existence alone. They can't handle him. And then the 2 good robots
That's not compute.
They manage to resist the evil pal programming, so they become good again, which is a great thing because I love those 2 characters.
There you go. They're gonna have their own standalone series here.
Yeah. The funny thing is that I did write this down. The Superbots refer to Mom as the lavender one in terror.
The lavender one.
So it's a happy ending.
Katie ends up going to school. What happened to the neighbor family? We saw them again. They were
captured.
They were captured, right?
Yeah. They were in one of the, they were in their own
cubicles,
ready to be shot into space.
Yeah.
So I wonder, they don't really go this dark, but I wonder if Pal meant the humans to just die out there in space because they had Wi-Fi, but they didn't have food or a toilet.
Well, that was great too. And the people were running in terror, and they're like, "Wait, free Wi-Fi!" And everyone's like, "Oh!" And they just stop. It's a fun movie.
It is.
I absolutely really enjoyed it. Family learns to accept each other. Katie goes off, still making movies. There's a running joke, and again, this is like a Snapchat filter, where she's constantly replacing her father's head with a screaming gibbon, and it just made me laugh way too hard.
Because they also, they do show some quote unquote YouTube videos, and every time they did, and the screaming gibbon was one of them. Yeah. I'd ask my son because he is like a YouTube fanatic. Is that a real video? He's like, no, I've never seen that before. Is that a real video?
Sure it's out there.
Now it is. It probably is. Yeah.
And that was at the end credits. They were showing videos of all the people that were working in that worked on the
and pictures of them as kids.
Yeah. Happy ending. Family got their picture.
Yeah. Katie makes it to school, as he said. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you pick up the pieces after that? Like,
once she got to school, it seemed like nothing had happened.
Nothing had happened. It's like the blip was over.
And like one kid says, "Oh, thanks for saving the world." And that's the only one that even acknowledges that what they did.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, Sony, we were talking about last week. Maybe they know what they're doing, and this is just more evidence to that point.
Maybe. So this was something that I guess was going to get a theatrical release. COVID hit. It got rescheduled a couple times, and then finally they just sold it to Netflix.
Yeah, what's funny is that it was originally scheduled to come out before COVID in January 2020, and it was delayed not because of COVID, because some other reason, to September 2020, and then because of COVID.
That was a kiss of death, huh?
Yeah, but I think we've talked about this before. A movie that's like not in a franchise, that's like a new thing. I think the streaming platform might serve it better than the theatrical run.
Access to a larger audience.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, does that? I mean, I don't know what Netflix bought it for. If Sony left money on the table, but
imagine if it was released theatrically and it had that title connected. Nobody would go to see it.
Nobody would go see it. Yeah. So it's on Netflix. Go watch it.
Go watch it.
Yeah.
So, what kind of buckets would we give it?
I'm gonna give it 3 3/4.
I would give it 3.5. Liked it, and I recommend it.
I will not let my wife ever watch it again. We would not survive the robot apocalypse, by the way. It just wouldn't happen.
No.
I would be in one of those cubes. I've said this before with the zombie apocalypse. I don't know. I don't think my family's well prepared.
I wonder if we could still record this podcast from those cubes. We had Wi-Fi, right?
Wi-Fi? Why the hell not? Maybe we'll find out. I don't know.
Maybe more people would listen to us if we.
There you go. We got nothing better to do.
We'd have a captive audience.
Okay, I'm getting a headache just thinking about this movie. Let's get on to Sky
All right.
Captain.
Yes, let's go to the concession stand, and then let's get our notes together for the Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
Maybe the concession stand has a little tiny bag of peanuts so I can feed the elephant.
Good evening. It's intermission time, and during the next 10 minutes, we invite you to visit our refreshment stand located in the center of the drive-in. Our service is friendly and quick. You'll find hot dogs, hamburgers, pizza, your favorite candies, hot and cold beverages, and other delicious snacks. So add to your fun of watching the movie. Visit our refreshment stand right now during our 10-minute intermission. We're glad to have you with us tonight. We hope you'll come to see us often. It's great to get out to the movies.
Okay, so we are back, and we're talking about Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
Yes, I raced to the theater to go see this. I was very excited to watch it again. It's been a while, but you're telling me that you don't really have any recollection?
No, I didn't see it in the theater, and I saw it probably, this was back in the days when there were still video stores out there. So I probably rented it. For whatever reason, it didn't make that much of an impression on me because I didn't remember a lot of the plot, and I didn't remember how impressive. It's very impressive to look at, though.
Yes, that's the larger point of what I wanted to get at, because the plot itself is very so-so. There's not much of a plot whatsoever.
But there's so much beauty in this film. There is a plot. It's not like it's plotless, but there's a lot more style over substance here. But still, it's not in a way that it's vacuous. It's fun. I saw some reviewer, maybe it was Roger Ebert, but he said it seemed to come right from the imagination to the screen with no filter in between. And that's very much what it is.
Yeah, no, this was a technical marvel at the time. Like I said, I saw it was 2004 when it did come out on disc. I bought it and we watched it. And I guess maybe because my son was only 2 when it came out, that my daughter would definitely remember watching this, because we did watch it numerous times. And like you said, it's gorgeous to look at. And when you realize that Cary Conran, who directed and wrote this, like, he created the first 6 minutes on his laptop and then kind of shopped it around. And if you have the DVD, that's on there, and it is pretty close to what you see in the final movie. Everything that they used in this movie is off the shelf. They used Adobe After Effects, and they filmed outside of a handful of sets where I think like where Polly's on her desk, or they literally physically have something in their hands. Everything else is CG. Everything else is shot on blue screen. All the background characters running around, they shoot them individually, and then you can just pull them into the computer and compose it however you want.
It is pretty obvious at points that you're watching characters that are not in the environment that they're in.
But it's not like there's a scene that takes you out. The entire movie has this ethereal, fuzzy edge softness to it. I don't know how you watch it. Did you watch it on Prime?
Yes.
Okay. I don't remember it being quite this dark. Like I'm like, what is up with her teeth? Her teeth just seem very unlit. But it's very stylized. Obviously, he is trying to emulate those old school Republic serials from the 30s with the Sky Captain, this Jude Law character that comes flying in to save the day. There's so many homages to all the stuff that obviously we grew up with the giant robots and the helicarrier is straight out of S.H.I.E.L.D. And this, like you said, this is pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. Angelina Jolie's character of Frankie, Nick Fury.
Nick Fury.
With the eye patch.
Straight up Nick Fury with their helicarriers floating around. So very cutting edge, very ahead of its time. And like you said, it opens up and you just get this movie. I always had a romantic version of Manhattan anyways, growing up upstate. Like New York City was Emerald City to me. And when I finally made it in the city and you see the Chrysler Building, you see the Empire State Building, you see the Flatiron Building, you see Grand Central. And this movie just absolutely eats up that city landscape. It looks very much like Metropolis. With the Hindenburg, first of all, dirigibles are not a viable way of transportation. They blow up way too easy, and they tethered at the top of the Empire State Building. There ain't no way I'm getting off that thing.
No, I know. And a little platform comes down, and you've got to walk over the vast emptiness of nothing. To walk from the Hindenburg 3 over this little wooden platform to get to the observation deck of the Empire State Building. No way.
No way. Right. No way indeed. And I'm like, I had to look that up because maybe they really did back in the day, but I don't know. That's a deal.
And there's hardly any handrail either. You can just look right over, down from the top of the Empire State Building.
Yeah. But I mean, right from the beginning, you get the title reveal and the score is just so over the top, and it's just, you're in. Again, just like the first movie. If you're not buying into this within the first 5 minutes, then walk away, because this is what you're getting through the entire movie.
But what was so fabulous about this, and I read that he was inspired by the 1939 World's Fair.
Yes,
it's got that
tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that past future retro look to it, the future that never happened, right? That we thought might happen in the 30s.
Yeah, because you are grounded in the 30s of Manhattan, but you had these fantastical robots. You got the manta ray flying planes, and there's all this other crazy stuff going on. Dex with his super secret ray guns. So it's a Buck Rogers kind of feel to it,
because it's so heavily based on those series. Even the character of Joe Sullivan, the Sky Captain, it's like he deserves his own serial, right?
Right.
That's the type of character that you would see in one of these things.
I think he originally wanted to do this in cliffhanger serial, do individual little 12-minute stories that would end in a cliffhanger, just like you would, but you would have, then that would just continue. And I think they decided against it because of just marketing. It was easier to sell it as one big.
Yeah. So that's, another reason why the story seems as simple as it is, because it, harkens back to that era of, the 30s, the golden age, the golden age.
Crazy mad scientist. He's creating something, and your hero's got to figure out what it is. And it's got a lot of Superman DNA in this as well. Those robots that go through Manhattan, the city, are straight up out of the old school Max Fleischer Superman cartoon series but Polly Perkins, Lois Lane. Dex is Jimmy Olsen. Her editor, Perry White.
Yep.
Yeah. She works for the Metro North newspaper. I also thought it was funny that Gwyneth Paltrow plays this character Polly Perkins, but she also plays Pepper Potts. So she's got two PPs going on there.
Polly Perkins, Pepper Potts, Pepper Potts, Polly Perkins.
Yeah. And she's
a reporter because you first see her typing.
Yes, yeah, with
Yep.
the big letters going behind it.
Yep.
This is so over the top stylized. Again, if you're not in, just turn it off, because you get a lot of that. And that montage, especially with the robot montage. Did you see the little newspaper with the Godzilla silhouette from
Yes,
Japan?
I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me when I saw that.
No.
And then I read a little bit later that it was in there purposefully.
Yeah, there's also, and I didn't catch this, and I've now watched this movie numerous times. During the robot invasion, you do see Kong climbing up the side of the Empire State Building.
Have you seen that?
I have yet to catch it.
Because I read this, but I didn't see it.
No, neither have I. And I thought it was during the manta ray ship attack. So that's where I was looking for it. And it's not. Supposedly it's during the robot invasion.
Okay.
So
another reason to watch it again.
Yeah. We get this where she's trying to, these scientists are going missing. And so she's tracking it down. And of course, just like Lois Lane, she's putting herself in danger to get the story, to get the scoop. And she meets this, was it Vargas? Is that who she met in the movie theater?
There's a scientist that gets off the Hindenburg. That's the reason we have the
I thought he
Hindenburg
jumped.
scene.
Like all of a sudden he's gone. And I'm like, wait, he jumped and nobody noticed?
So this guy that gets off the Hindenburg has 2 vials on him, and he's got to deliver them to another scientist that's in New York. And so that's the scientist that Polly goes to see at Radio City, the one that has the vials now from the guy that got off the Hindenburg.
Right. That supposedly are these.
Which is a
MacGuffins.
great scene, this Radio City scene, because if you've ever been in Radio City Music Hall, it looks like she's there in that vast
It's
lobby
not. They
of
took
Radio City.
flat photographs of the interior of Radio City, which is, like you said, it is spectacular. When you walk in, again, like this is the stuff that just the Art Deco style inside there, Radio City. When you walk in there, it just blows you away. You just feel the history of it.
They try to keep the integrity of that time period in Radio City today.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right though, because they used like flat photographs and just built out a 3D room for her to walk through. So she's not there. You're right.
So I was convinced that at least that scene was real, but wow.
No, everything was shot on a blue screen. They shot this entire movie in 26 days because they did all of it in post. Shoot your character against a blue screen, picking up a phone. We'll put the windows in later.
Wow.
Put them in the cockpit. Yeah, we'll put that stuff in later. And I will say that toward the end of this movie, pretty much every CG special effects studio had their fingers in this, trying to get it done. It was a big undertaking, but it is, like you said, it was supposed to be Snow White in the theater, but they couldn't get the rights.
Really?
Disney,
but you know what? I thought it was perfect because there's a callback to Wizard of Oz later. And the fact when you see the camera behind Polly and the scientist, it's the scene where Glenda the Good Witch is showing up, and the bubble is growing in between the two. It's like an electric company, with the 2 silhouettes.
Oh, that's But I love the fact he says you shouldn't have come. It's like, then why'd you send her a note? But he gives her the vials. Yeah.
So she's got the vials from this point on, which she hides from Joe.
Yeah, this is
for
the
long
thing,
time,
which is this relationship between her and Joe, Sky Captain.
They are apparently exes at this point in the movie.
But as soon as she gets those vials, the robots attack. And I didn't write this down, but there's the scene as they're coming across, they're flying in, the robots, and she's on the phone with her editor, who is Michael Gambon, Dumbledore. And she's like, they're coming over the Palisades. They're at the 7th Street. They're at 6th Street. I guess that's a direct lift from H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds.
Really?
When Orson Welles read it, on the radio. So and that's when they call in the emergency protocol for calling Sky Captain, and you get that giant RKO.
Yeah,
logo. I mean, so over the top, giant radio tower.
Talk about your King Kong reference again. And there's another one a little bit later on.
Yes, yeah. And then he pulls a snow speeder maneuver from Empire Strikes Back by just rappelling some ropes to take out their legs, and they all fall. Yeah,
but these robots are really impressive. And, it's almost like going into Iron Giant territory from the way that these things look. And then, of course, you're talking about the Superman, the animated Superman.
Yeah.
But like the shot of the robots flying over the city with arms extended is just so memorable. It's iconic. It's actually iconic. And I was so disappointed with myself that I didn't latch onto this movie the first time that I saw it. And I got, 1941 vibes as well,
Yeah.
with the low flying plane over the city
and the
streets.
Klieg lights are coming back and forth. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, it's a great sequence with these giant robots marching through Manhattan, and they take one down, or Joe takes one down with his plane, and they bring it back to the air base. So Dex, Jimmy Olsen, because he's there, he's his right-hand man on the ground, almost like a Q type character.
Giovanni Ribisi.
Played by Giovanni Ribisi, so he can figure it out, how this thing works, and
he's like, as they're pulling it in, he's like chonking on his gum.
Yep.
Shazam, he says.
And talk about another King Kong image, the hangar doors, the giant hangar doors opening.
Yep. And so it's revealed, so Polly's now chasing after Joe. She wants to find out what's going on. This is her story. She wants to be a part of it. And you get the tension between the two of them because they haven't seen each other in 2 years. He's berating her because he thinks that she sabotaged his plane. She's adamant that she did not do that. But then she was accusing him of fooling around. So there's other stuff.
And it's, like a Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of back and forth, where they have history that, is always being referenced, but that you're not privy to except for what they're saying.
But this is where you find out that these robots have been coming for like 3 years and they can't figure out what they're after and where they go. And I'm like, 3 years? And you can't figure this out? Seems like just follow them back.
From this point on, there's a scene where they go to was it Vargas's lab that they go and they first encounter?
Oh yeah,
the assassin. Yeah,
Beiling. This might have been her first movie.
You think so?
I don't know. I don't know what else I would have seen her in.
But this is where they find the mini elephant, the little Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh, it was Dr. Jennings' office.
Dr. It was Jennings. Okay.
Yeah. And even that, when they break into the door, the number on it is 1138, which is a reference to Lucasfilm.
Oh.
They tend to hide that. They tend to hide that ILM. Yes. But this is where we learn the name Totenkopf.
Yes. This is where we hear the name Totenkopf for the first time.
Yep. Is this right around the time that the tentacled robots now break into the secret base?
Into the air base. So
the air base. They're away. Yeah, this is all kind of going on simultaneously. These robots are really super cool. And again, the laser shoots are straight up War of the Worlds from the 1938 movie.
Definitely, yeah. And it's, and like you said, they've got these tendrils for arms. So
and legs.
So each time you get an attack of these mechanized marauders, they're different looking. So you're getting variety, each of these action sequences that they have, because they're always getting attacked by something new.
It's not the same robot or whatever, which is cool. And then you get the flying mantis ships. Dex is trying to figure out if he can track them. Polly's in the back of the plane. They're flying, chasing after this thing, and he's shooting them down. And Dex is like, oh yeah, by the way, don't shoot them down.
Don't shoot them down, because one of these, the manta ray things, the robotic flying manta rays is getting a signal from somewhere, but Dex is not quite sure which one it is, but he's trying to track that signal, and that's why he tells Joe not to shoot them down. So now they're coming back from the lab at this point. So now they've gotten Totenkopf's name. So they have that bit of information, and now they want to see where this is coming from.
Secret Unit 11.
Yes, Unit 11. Yeah. So the air base is devastated by these manta rays, and everybody's captured, including Dex, but not before he leaves a clue behind. He did manage to trace where this signal is coming from, and he's got a little
Ravenwood's manor in isn't that where Indiana Jones went to go find Marion?
Oh yeah, Nepal is where they have to go to.
I hope he grabbed another plane though, because that other one had a hole in the fuselage. He was leaking some fuel. He wouldn't have gotten very far. But when he gets there, you meet this character, Kaji. He was in The Mummy and Gladiator, this actor, Omid Djalili. I butchered it. But he brings him 3 cases of Vienna sausages. And I'm like, where and when did you have time to pick those up? So now we're in Nepal, and now we learn about Shangri-La.
There's an action sequence in like in a room. It's almost like a Yosemite Sam cartoon where they're trapped in a room with all this gunpowder and dynamite. Yeah. They make it out the last minute, and they get knocked out, and they wake up in Shangri-La.
Naked, by the way.
Naked,
mind you. And that's a great scene where she wakes up, Polly wakes up. She's like, where are my clothes? I don't have any clothes on. And then she turns and there's Joe. And she's like, he's smiling. And then he turns and there's Khajiit next to him. Hey, Joe. They're all naked. But you mentioned the World Fair, and this building that they see in Shangri-La looks just like the round building with the pylon.
Yes.
From the 1938 World's Fair.
So they talk to a monk once they wake up in bed in Shangri-La, who reveals that Totenkopf had enslaved his fellow monks to mine uranium. And there's only one survivor left of these monks that were enslaved.
He was pretty mutated, by the way.
He was, and
But this is why they were naked, because they burned their clothes because it was poisonous. The clothes were infected.
And so they're given new clothes so they don't spend the rest of the movie naked.
Unlike Kirk Douglas.
But this mutated survivor whispers to Joe the location of where they now have to go. They get on their way, Polly and Joe, and they don't have enough fuel. So Joe radios out, and suddenly through the clouds bursts the 1939 version of the Shield helicarrier.
Yep, commanded by
Commander Frankie
Cook, Francesca,
played by Angelina Jolie.
Straight up Nick Fury, man.
Straight up Nick Fury, and she was coming right off of Tomb Raider in this. So,
I think she filmed all of her stuff in 2 days.
She had the amphibious squadron on this helicarrier. The initials HB I noticed on at least one of the planes. Now, I completely got vibes from the movie Goldfinger. Now, if you're familiar with Goldfinger, there is a character by the name of Pussy Galore, played by Honor Blackman. And
HB.
I was convinced that Jolie was doing an Honor Blackman accent. And then I saw the HB on the plane. And Honor Blackman's character had this squadron of female pilots, and that's how they gas Fort Knox at the end of Goldfinger.
Interesting. There you go. I didn't even catch any of that. Nice. I will say the helmet that they wear, this amphibious, is straight up Wally Wood. If you're familiar with old school comic books, and I think he drew Shield and Nick Fury for quite some time, but it's just this big bubble glass with the filter, the round filter on the front with the piping that goes around the neck. That is straight up Wally Wood.
Really?
Yeah. The gear is for the fighter pilots. And this is where we get the other Kong reference, which is when they're underwater trying to make their way onto the island. They go over a steamer ship that's the Venture.
Yeah.
Right? Which
was the steamer that was on its way to Skull Island at the beginning of Kong.
Yep. I will also say there was a Star Wars reference in here, which is when Joe first gets clearance to land on the mobile airstrip. They tell him to land on platform 327. That's where the Millennium Falcon lands in Cloud City.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You see, I think if we made a movie, I think we would fill it with this stuff as well.
We would spend all of our time trying to shoehorn this crap in there.
So that's where this mutated monk had told Joe to go, was this island where Totenkopf is holing up. And Commander Frankie is commandeering an airstrike to give a distraction so Joe and Polly can make their way underwater and through the back door get on this island. Yeah, and the island is like Skull Island once they get on there.
Absolutely.
There's even a tree bridge that they have to cross.
Yeah. And you get the little dinosaur creature that they encounter right off the bat.
Now, were these mutations that from Totenkopf's experiments? Is that why these?
That's a good question, because you didn't really see. I don't know if they're denizens of the island or just they would make sense that maybe over the years.
Well, if
he was experimenting with all kinds of...
if he's collecting animals, maybe there's like a Dr. Moreau thing going on here as well. Who knows?
Yeah. But you're right. This is straight up Kong reference. And I did like that little scene when the plane's in the water and she realizes that the call letters on the side of his ship upside down spell Polly.
Oh yeah, because she sees the reflection in the water.
But the funny thing is that the lettering on the side of the plane does not match the reflection. The dashes are in different places, but it still sells the idea, because up to this point he's playing very coy with her, and then she realizes that he does in fact have affection for her.
So now that they're on the island, they find Totenkopf's facility, and he's basically building a Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
For space.
And this spaceship was like, to me, it was like rocket ship XM from the Earth to the moon. It was an old school streamlined, airstream rocket ship, and he's building an ark, a space ark. Although, you know what? Maybe because before they broke into the facility, you see the skull or the skeleton of a giant guard dog or something, and yet one of them's still alive.
But maybe it's, going to the bathroom in the bushes or something at the time that
but
they
you're
arrived.
right. Maybe he must have been experimenting to create these creatures. But outside of those two, you never really saw anything else. There was that swamp creature. You kind of got a Empire Strikes Back Dagobah vibe.
And there was like a Kevin type thing from Up that they run into as well.
Yeah. That's really funny. That actually came up yesterday because we were watching Discover Channel, and we were watching this whole special on the cassowary, which is these giant birds that Kevin from Up is based on this, and it's about as close to a real world dinosaur. And they live in Australia, and they're just really fascinating looking birds. And we had probably a half an hour conversation on the car ride home yesterday about they are one of the most dangerous birds. Ben knows everything about these birds, apparently. I said, even more so than an ostrich? He goes, well, you can ride an ostrich, right, Dad? And I'm like, yeah, I guess you can. So, yeah. So Space Ark, all these little animals are being loaded up. But they get there just in time. This has been going on for 3+ years, but they literally get to the island with 10 minutes before the thing launches.
What Totenkopf has been doing, it is literally Noah's Ark. He's getting 2 of every animal to launch into space to start civilization again. And that's what are in these vials, I guess, are the DNA of life? Or...
he said, they said it was they were building blocks of Adam and Eve, but I'm like, you're not sending humans up, so how is that going to work? Where is this rocket going?
Yeah, I know. Is it going to a planet, or it would have to?
Right.
It can't just exist in space.
It's supposed to be once the rocket goes, then Earth is going to blow up.
Because as soon as like their rocket boosters flare in the atmosphere, the entire atmosphere is going to catch fire or something to that effect. I was hazy on this aspect of it.
It's a little questionable what the actual end game was and why he had to do it in secret.
But he doesn't like humanity is the bottom line, and he's going to destroy the Earth and start anew with all the animals.
Yeah, he just never.
I think Ridley Scott was watching this before he wrote Prometheus. Actually,
I have an idea. Well, yet again, bringing up Prometheus.
But then we get the next Wizard of Oz reference, because Totenkopf himself appears, but in the form of a giant hologram of his head, just like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, Sir Laurence Olivier, who died 8 years before this movie.
So they were able to add one more credit to his list of films here.
Yeah. Which I think this again, when I remember seeing this and reading this, that they used old footage, like it just blew my mind. And it's obvious now because, they dub over his voice, and there was a couple still photographs that you saw early on that were really Sir Laurence Olivier. And they just photoshopped out whoever was, Vivian Leigh or whoever's next to him, and put in the Bei Ling character. But where he's given his monologue speech, where you see the big head, they would zoom in so you don't see his mouth.
Oh, okay. You see, I wasn't looking for that when I was watching it.
So it's a cheat, but at the same time, like this was probably right around the time when we suddenly started seeing like Fred Astaire selling Swiffer mops.
Oh yeah.
Where they would Photoshop them in, and you're just like, here we go.
Yeah.
And now with deep fakes, forget it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even think twice about this stuff.
But this is in the movie. It's really a deep fake, because soon after this, they discover the actual Totenkopf is like a mummified corpse.
Yeah, he didn't make it.
It's like Mother. They turn around the chair. It's like Mother from Psycho.
20 years ago, he's been down there.
And apparently he changed his mind at some point, because he's got a note in his dead hand that says, "Forgive me."
You couldn't have just hit the stop button. You take the effort to write that, but you couldn't have just hit the button.
That was like your deathbed realization. Maybe I wasn't right.
Maybe
it's too late now. Yeah.
Who's cleaning up after all those animals? That's what I want to know.
Ooh, I know.
And even those robots, the robots that were servicing the ship, now that I'm thinking about it, were very reminiscent of some of the robots that they were fighting, that Obi-Wan and Padme were fighting in Attack of the Clones, when they were in the smelting mines or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot to like about this. We're tearing it apart at this point, but it is just visually, it's It's giddy. It's a Saturday morning serial.
Baleen comes back into it at this point.
That's right. She does. Yes.
And so there's a final battle with Baleen, and then it's revealed that she's a robot as well. Yeah. Fast forward to the happy ending here. The rocket lifts off. Polly jettisons the animal pods, and they all safely fall back to Earth. They've all got parachutes on. So don't worry. No animals were harmed. In the film or during the making of the film.
I don't think any of them are real.
No, none of them are real. Robot got it in the face, by the way. I didn't mention that.
That's true.
Joe and Polly also escape in a pod from the ship. And so what was the deal? The ship blows up before it hit the atmosphere, so the doomsday
I guess
didn't
it
happen.
didn't trigger. It didn't trigger. So the trigger's still there. I don't know.
So the atmosphere could still blow up at any given time.
I guess. I don't know.
But there was a running joke, we didn't mention it, that Polly had 2 pictures left on her camera.
Yeah, because at one point when they were back in the cave and the dynamite was going to explode, she wanted to go back and get her bag of film. And Joe saved her life, but then she was mad because now she's only got 1 roll of film. So any opportunity she had to take a picture of something fantastical, she would stop and not.
Because she only had 2 pictures left because she was thinking that there'd be something even more fantastic still to come. Yeah.
And then that one shot where, like you said, the Kong reference where they're running across the tree bridge and she trips and he's yelling at her because she could have died and he lost his gun and she starts like crying. He goes, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "I shot the ground. I shot the ground," because she had 3 pictures at that point.
Because I didn't.
And he just laughed his ass off.
At first, I didn't know what she meant. I'm like, she doesn't have a gun. How did she shoot the ground? But then she took an accidental picture and shot the ground.
Yep.
So now from that point on, she only had 1 picture left. She is pointing her camera at all the animals in their floating pods after they've safely parachuted down into the water. And she's got that one last picture, and instead she takes it of Joe. So you know that she's still sweet on him.
Yeah, except Polly. She goes, no, you don't have to say anything. Lens cap. And you just see her, like all the color flush out of her face.
Yeah.
And then we cut to black. And that was it.
That's it.
Nice happy ending.
Now this just flew by. That's the mark of a good movie for me. It's like you never have to look at how long the thing has to go, right? That it just takes over you and you're invested, and then it's done and you wish it wasn't over.
Yeah, I don't think this did very well in the theater.
By reported accounts, the budget was $70 million, although the director takes umbrage to that figure. There was an interview that I saw with him where he's like, "I never saw 70 million. I don't know where people say that this cost 70 million to make." But the box office receipts were 58 million. So it did not make its money back.
I'm trying to think what else was out that year that would have been.
Well, they moved the date. It was originally scheduled to release earlier in the year during the summer when Spider-Man 2 was opening.
Oh, yes, that would have been
that would have been the death knell, but they moved this to September, which is usually like the graveyard for summer movies, late August, early September.
Yeah, you had The Village out was that year, Dawn of the Dead, Day After Tomorrow, Scooby-Doo 2, Saw, Harry Potter, Prisoners of Azkaban. Yeah.
Talk about another King Kong reference. You see the name De Laurentiis pop up in the credits.
Yeah, so I want to go back to that. Are these his daughters? There's 2 of them, Auriello and Raffaello.
Auriello is the nephew of Dino.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't know.
Auriello De Laurentiis is the nephew of Dino, and they came to him with that trailer footage that you were talking about, the black and white, because before they even had a distribution company of a distributor for the movie, they got De Laurentiis on board to finance the movie without a distribution deal in place, and that eventually went to Paramount.
Yeah, it's always fun to see a De Laurentiis name pop up.
Yeah.
In the opening credits.
And then Jude Law, one of the producers as well, because he believed in the film.
I think at this point it's probably taken on a little bit more of a cult status.
Oh yeah, definitely. I loved it. Again, I can't say enough good things about this. Loved it. Even though we're talking about how the plot isn't the most intricate, but I think it serves it. I think it serves it.
No, it just gets you from point A to point B. It's no more elaborate or unelaborate than Raiders of the Lost Ark. Trying to solve a mystery, simple as that.
You got to love a movie that throws a Godzilla Easter egg in there as well.
There are tons of. There's probably other stuff in here that we completely missed, but that's some of the stuff I picked up on.
So, all right. So, what kind of buckets would we give?
Oh, I would go a solid 4 1/4.
4 1/4.
Yeah.
I am going to go 4 buckets on Sky Captain.
Which is big for you.
Yes, it is.
I agree.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Glad that we watched it for this.
Yes. Robot mayhem.
So talking about fun pairings, this should be an interesting conversation next week. The very contentious Zack Snyder.
He's back.
He's back with another zombie movie.
Well, we already agreed to not talk about
Dawn of the
Justice
Dead.
League, so
Well, no, it's like I've agreed a long time ago never to talk about Dawn of the Dead, his Dawn of the Dead,
true.
being a purist. So I am very, very hesitant when it comes to this new Army of the Dead.
The zombie heist movie.
The zombie heist movie, which everybody is lauding, who apparently never saw or heard of Peninsula, which is the sequel to Train to Busan. And hopefully she's listening to this. Now, I don't know if this is going to spur on Christina to join us next week.
She's already shaking
or
her
if
head.
she's going to stay away from this because we're talking about Army of the Dead. Because not the biggest Snyder fan is our Christina. But maybe this might entice because we're pairing with Army of the Dead, Army of Darkness.
You're dangling that. Look at that. Look at that. You're fishing now. Which
is the third in the Evil Dead trilogy, Sam Raimi's original Evil Dead trilogy, with Bruce Campbell as Ash, as our intrepid Ash.
And we have covered Evil Dead 2, but we never talked about the
We never talked about the first. That might be a little bit too intense, Jeff. I don't know.
You know what? I will tell you, I saw it in the theater.
You did?
I saw it in college. Yeah. Dorm. It was a movie night. They paired it up with The Exorcist.
How did you survive?
I have been exposed to it. We goofed on it the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we might have to go visit. I'm not averse to that.
Army of Darkness is probably 100 miles away from the original Evil Dead in tone.
No, this is
and in content. So
but what we're getting with Army of the Dead, I have no idea. And this is also Netflix, correct? It
is Netflix. So this is not like a premium charge deal.
We got a couple more goodies lined up for you too, kids. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we do.
We got a $5 coming dropping on Memorial Day weekend.
Yep.
Yeah. Looks like we're actually going back to the theater.
As long as it comes out, fingers crossed. We're so close now.
My theater. I got a notification. Screenings are starting the 28th. 26, whatever Memorial Day weekend starts that Thursday. So my local Regal will be back and running. Regal's and I am very excited.
Yeah, Quiet Place 2 is what we're talking about.
Quiet Place 2. I wonder what we're going to pair that up with. I guess you'll have to wait and find out.
You'll have to wait and find out.
Yep. All right. Listen, thanks as always. Checking in with us. Bye.
All right. Bye. Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIconfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
And the apocalypse starts, boom, now.
I just don't.